It's been a week off, and now the playoffs are finally here for the Calder Cup of 2016 LG AHL PSN. Hi, everyone. TSibs with you, VHigh and Moranaconda as well. And we are here to give you the second half, part 2 of the playoff preview for the Western Conference. And plenty to talk about there. We're also going to hear from Mooner 2014 a little bit later on in the show. And then a very special guest at the very end of the show. We'll keep that one a surprise for you. Right here on the LG Hockey Hotline. VHigh and Moranaconda, how you guys doing today?
Doing great, Sibs. We are just over 24 hours away from the start of Season 2 playoffs, and things are really starting to heat up here.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm ready to get this going. I got nothing.
Nearly as excited as we did.
Right. Well, I've been looking forward to this all day, and I really hate working on Saturdays. So now it's like the whole build up to the show, and then that last 15 minutes waiting for it to get kicked off. It's like, let's get it going already.
Well, yeah, obviously we're all itching to see what happens in the playoffs this season, and we're finally, obviously, we had the week off. It was determined that, with the holidays going on this week here in the States, to give it a few days and get everybody back into it. We've seen a lot of activity, obviously, guys still playing the game, and Friday Night Puck had a lot of guys last night involved, and, I think a lot of the players are itching to get going. We've also heard from a lot of teams in the playoffs as well, guys who are running their own little postseason mini camps to try and keep everybody together and work out strategies, because now it's a little different. We're getting into the playoffs here. There's, you're not going to find pushover teams necessarily, so you've got to have your plan together, and I think a lot of them are working on it right now.
Well, they're also afraid to, I see a lot of teams talking about being afraid to, scrimmage. So some GMs are wanting to scrimmage each other, and a lot of GMs are really jostling for position right now, and they're kind of worried about giving away their play style a little too much here as we get into the playoffs. And they're kind of keeping, a lot of teams are keeping it internal and they're scrimmaging against each other, but there are some teams out there that are willing to scrimmage against other teams, which is good. I for one, if it was a playoffs, I'd kind of want to keep everything under lock and key and do a lot of inner squad scrimmages and really work on systems and their defensive systems and not give too much away to other teams by scrimmaging against them.
Yeah, I think when we had Shiz on last Saturday, he hit the nail right on the head with Rockford, where they were going to be doing some practices, inter-squad, like you said, and kind of keeping it in-house. And they'll kind of throw a team together and scrimmage with other people, but I don't think they're putting their playoff lines together. It's just random guys from the Ice Hogs. Probably a smart move, because it gives them a chance to see another team possibly and not really give anything away. But, yeah, when you get here to the playoffs, there's... I think there's some people who don't want you to see what you're doing. You don't want them to see what you're doing. And then I think there's other people who say, you can see what we're doing, but we're going to force you to stop us anyway. Because there is that factor. You can know someone's going to do something, but you still got to stop them.
Well, I think the couple of situations that I think where it makes sense is that if you're someone like Rockford, where it's, obviously they've only been beaten 15 times this year. San Antonio only 19. Maybe you don't want to give any team a chance to try and solve you because they've been so difficult to figure out. And I can understand that. The other opportunity is if you're working on different plays that haven't been seen during the season, that, if you play against a team, on your side on the West a lot, maybe they do have an idea what you do. Maybe you're working on some new strategy and you don't want them to see that. Those are the situations I can see where, maybe you don't want them to see those kinds of things. Other than that, though, I don't know if it does that much damage, again, because these teams have played each other so often within the conference, and I think then it's up to a decent GM and the rest of the team to be able to say, well, we kind of know what these guys are going to do, so what's our strategy for this game against them? And if you do that kind of work and you practice that, even if you play the other team a little bit or play another team in the West that you're not playing in the playoffs in the first round, I don't know if it hurts that much. I'm not sure if I totally agree with that.
Well, I think you could see goalie tendencies for sure. Once you see a certain goalie enough times and play against him, you could definitely pull off some of his tendencies and find out what he likes to do. Whether it's if he's going to stay glued to that post as you're coming down the wing on him, or if he's going to cheat a little bit and look for that try and get a good hop on that cross crease pass. Just little tiny things like that. I mean, we're into the playoffs here, so it's the tiniest millimeter is an advantage here in the playoffs. So, I could see that. Learning a goalie's tendencies could definitely be something used against you and for another team. But, for the most part, you're right, Sibs. I don't think it would be too much harm. But, we'll see what happens here. We will definitely see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be devastating to anybody, but I don't
unless
think
they played like tons of games against each other, like
right.
Hundreds.
Yeah. Or if you have guys like Ryan of the Americans who plays club outside of LG with a lot of the guys from the Ice Hogs, situations like that would make a difference. But
they play pro league together.
Right, but I don't think it's going to hurt you. But it definitely doesn't hurt to be in those games on the opposite side as far as scouting goes. But I think we'll go ahead and get right into this here and start with the Western Conference. That's what we're taking care of tonight. We ended last show deciding that we were going to split it off, do kind of East-West, and maybe we could have had Barris on to talk East with us last Tuesday and had Vibes on tonight, but I like the way the show turned out the other night as far as the schedule goes, and I think it's okay to, we're going to have Mooner on in a little while. I think he can handle talking about the West. So let's get started with that. We'll do the same format. I'll say what the series is that we're talking about, give my prediction for the series. You guys give your prediction, just quickly on the prediction, and then we'll go back around and explain why we have the prediction that we have for this series. So we'll start off with the Ice Hogs versus the Griffins. Rockford Ice Hogs, Grand Rapids Griffins. And what you actually have here is something interesting. You have the first place team in the Western Conference in the Ice Hogs and the 9th place team in the Western Conference in the Griffins. But based on our division-style playoff format, the Griffins make it in. And not a lot of people giving the Griffins much hope in this series, and certainly with as strong as Rockford is, I can see that point of view. But for me, I am picking the Ice Hogs in this series, but I do think the Griffins steal one game from them. Possibly a first against a third line, or maybe their first line gets taken easy a little bit. You never know how long it takes to get rolling in the playoffs. So for me, I'm picking Rockford in 5. They're going to win the series 4-1. Griffins steal one game. Mike, how about you?
That's kind of the way I go too. And looking at these two teams, they're polar opposites of one another. You got the Hogs, which are a high flying offensive team. They score goals in bunches, but not to be overshadowed by their defensive skill. Their defensive skill, their forechecking, especially their forechecking is second to none. They really get after it on the forecheck, and yeah, I mean, a lot of their points come from turnovers. They create turnovers, they pressure the puck hard, and they bury the chances that they get from those turnovers at a very, very high rate. So they're a hell of a team to play against. They're very tough. They move the puck well. They know each other so well. Although I do like the Griffins, and they put together a nice run at the end of the season, and I got some close friends over there. An Angry Dangler, he's a really good friend of mine. Off road, I play some games with B37 Will, Riverdale. They got a lot of good talent over there. They got some serious talent in Grand Rapids, but I myself as well, I'm right with you, VHigh, and I have the Griffins stealing a game, but I have the Hogs taking this one in 5. How about you, Sibs?
Yeah, I think it's a clean sweep. I think the Ice Hogs in 5 again. I think just purely out of matchups, maybe the Griffins take one. And you mentioned a lot of good players on that team with Angry Dangler, Riverdale Stomp, and a bunch of other guys on there off road as well, who are a big part of that team, who have done well and have gotten them into this playoff position. But I just see too many tools. This is not one of those series that not having Jay Claus is going to make a difference. As you mentioned, they have other good forecheckers. So I take Rockford in 5 in this one.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reasons why we're probably all three picking the Rockford Ice Hogs for this series. Not the least of which being that even without J Claus, they were the top scoring team in the league. They did win the President's Trophy, and even though it was by a slim margin, only one point in the standings over Rochester. Um, the Hogs are just loaded with talent from front to back. They've got a solid decor. They've got solid goaltending, and of course their forward lines are just outstanding. Shiz is making the move to center since Jay Claus is gone. He was playing wing, but you got the brothers over there. Um, Cup for Blues and Rhino was the league leader in points this season. Um, and that's not even to say, Kraz 18, he only played 20 games this year and wasn't too far behind. He played 6 less games than Rhino did and finished third in the league in points. You have to figure that if he would have played those 6 games or 7 more games, that he would have led the league in points. And they've just, their depth is just incredible, really. And I look for Rockford to jump out to a quick start. I don't know if they're going to play their first line in the game in the first game. I guess we'll find out an hour before game time tomorrow night. But I think that's another factor in the playoffs here is that you might see the Griffins not put their first line out there in game one. Wait to see, just put their second or third line out game one, start a little slow, see how the Ice Hogs respond to that lineup, and use a game for one of their lines, and then try and get to game 3 where they can possibly get a good matchup at home and steal that game based on line matchups. So you never know how this stuff's going to work out, but to sit here and read all the stats for the guys on the Ice Hogs would take forever. But the Griffins aren't a slouch. They finished a little below 500, but they were in an extremely tough conference this year. The Western Conference was tough, top to bottom, and I really, based on seeing things play out here, I could change my opinion on how I think they'll do overall in the series, but I do think they steal the one game because I think that they can exploit a matchup possibly in game 3 at home, and steal one with their number one goalie in their first line. But I guess we'll see how that is. Mike, what are you seeing as far as lineups here, and who would your key player in this series be? Do you think it would be Shiz taking center back?
Nah, my key player always is Kraz 18. I mean, the guy is a stud. He's got 20 games played and 100 points. He's 20-0. Yes, you heard me correctly. He is 20-0. He has not lost a game yet. He's my standout guy. He's a phenomenal player. He just gets it done all over the ice. He's not just a point producer. He is a shutdown right wing who takes the puck from people. He plays the body. He takes the puck. He scores. I mean, he's just a complete player. And anybody who is lucky enough to play with him is better for it. I'm looking right back through his stats here. I mean, he was part of a game against the Griffins on the 20th of June, and I mean, the IceHogs won it 13-2. And the Ice Hogs are solid. Chiz is going to slide right into center. He's a great center. He's an NHL center. He's a great friend of mine. He is a fantastic player, and they're not going to skip a beat with Chiz stepping into that center position. He moves the puck very well. Chiz is a smart player. He's got moves. He's great defensively. And I just think they're going to be coming after the Griffins wave after wave, and it's just going to be the Griffins are going to be playing on their heels. Now, that being said, anything can happen. You never know what can happen in the playoffs. You just never know. That also being said, the Ice Hogs are a tough, tall task in the first round for anybody in the league, and with guys like Kraz 18 out there, I mean, it's just he can't play every game, but you go right on down the line for the Hogs. Goose Chuck is an amazing defenseman. He just recently posted some stuff on the I think it was him. Wasn't it him that posted the stuff for he made the player cards, I believe. Did anybody else see that?
What do you mean?
I think it was him.
Are you talking about awards for Ice Hogs?
It wasn't. Goose Chuck, he responded to it. He made his own player card. But no, he's a phenomenal defenseman. They've just got massive amounts of talent over there in Rockford, and I just don't see the Griffins getting past them.
And as you were saying there, before I let you weigh in here, Sibs, they've also got another one of their AGMs, Nick N. Riney, who put up 86 points this season, was a plus 55, and you never hear him talk about him. He was 23-3 on the year. I mean, their depth is just incredible as far as especially the forwards go. But the only thing I would caution is don't just think about their forward depth, because they've got an extremely solid defensive core and a couple of solid goalies too. So.
Sibs, to be a D-man on the Ice Hogs.
Right, tons of assists, I'm sure. Sibs, what are your thoughts on this series?
Well, I'm not sure if there's really much else that can be added at this point. We know what the talent is on these teams, and like I said, the Griffins have plenty of talent, but there's just too much going on, and you guys talk a lot about the front line. I'm looking at OSU Bucks. I'm looking at Goose Chuck. Plenty of other guys there on the D who are solid, and then of course Rask and Ned, who's been just playing almost lights out for the last several weeks. Even if the Rockford offense is struggling, I think their defense is more than enough to make up for that. And maybe with matchups, the Griffins can get one, but with that much offense and defense, you have to play perfect games against them. And the Griffins have shown that while they can get into the playoffs, they have plenty of games where they have not been perfect, and that alone is going to, give them a really hard, tough hill to climb, if at all possible. So, they're really, to me, there's not much to say about this series. We know what Rockford has. We know how strong they are up and down the starting lineup and all three lines, offense and defense, and then the net. It's just too much for the Griffins, and it might be too much for most every team out there.
Yeah, very well could be. And if you give me 1 second here, I just want to pull something up. So when you're looking at playoff matchups and kind of who's facing who, did either of you guys look at the season series between these two teams?
No, I did not. I
I'm
didn't have a
trying
chance.
to pull it up right now, and I had this one up the other day, and I can't remember, but I want to say, I don't know, I can't find it, but I think that I want to say, oh, there it is. Okay, so they were, um, the Ice Hogs played the Griffins in week 3 and beat them 7-2. And then in week 4, the Griffins came back and beat the Ice Hogs 5-1. Um, then in week 5, the Griffins came back again and beat the Ice Hogs again 5-1. They were home in the first 5-1 win, and they were away in the second 5-1 win. Then they lost 13-2 in week 8 and lost 6-2 in week 9. So the Ice Hogs have a 3-2 series lead for the season in 5 games, but the Griffins did take 2 games, and they weren't 1-goal games. They were both 5-1 victories. So I was just gonna say before I couldn't find it, I was looking at this the other day, and I thought the Griffins had sniped at least a game, if not 2. I couldn't remember, but they did take 2 out of 5. Um, you never know what can happen, and we'll see how the Ice Hogs can perform now that they don't have their fearless leader there. They've still got an incredible team, and I don't expect them to lose the series, but we've seen crazier things happen, especially last year with some of the favorites. I mean, you never know, right?
No,
so,
we saw Stockton go down very early last season, so
Well, yeah,
so
anything is possible.
I think
right.
last season proved to all of us that teams can come out of nowhere. I kind of think in the West that's where it might be more possible because not that we have teams that are not known in San Jose and San Diego, but they've been playing tough competition in their division all year, and while they are in there and people know about them, I'm not sure if anybody really sees them as someone who's going to win the whole thing, but they rightly could do it, and I think the West has at least that division does. We'll get to them in a little bit, but at least that division has some teams that can be a surprise in this one.
hmm So I know you guys have kind of the format that I laid out. We're sticking to it, but I am gonna change things up and put the Rampage Condors series on the back burner to try and get to it later in the show so that we can kind of talk that with Mooner when he gets on here. So I'm going to skip ahead to the Gulls versus the Barracuda and talk about that series. The Gulls and Barracuda are 2 solid teams. The Gulls jumped out. Were fighting early in the season with the Ice Hogs for first in the conference. Them and the Stars. They fell off a little bit towards the end of the year as far as where they were at in the standings overall. But this is an incredible team, the Gulls, and the Barracudas are not a slouch. I think that the Western Conference is so strong with its top teams that um, when they face each other, you really can't know what's going to happen, especially when you get to these middle matchups and where it's not a top seed versus the bottom seed. You've got 2 teams in the middle here. I think it's going to be the Barracuda offense against the um, Gulls defense. For me, um, this series, I am picking my upset. I am taking the Barracuda in 6, and I don't really have an amazing reason to pick it, but which I'll get into in just a minute. But I am taking the Barracuda in 6 games against the San Diego Gulls, which I might talk myself out of when we're talking about this, but that's at this point that's what I'm picking. So, Mike, what do you got in this series?
Well, I think this is your classic case of the 2 versus the 3. This is going to be a knockdown, drag out series. These guys are going to go at it hard and heavy. The Gulls have a very solid team from top to bottom. And it's just going to be, it's going to be a hard-fought series. There's great goaltending over on the side of the Barracuda with Perkins. Ducks fan Waterloo's a hell of a player over there with San Jose as well. This one could go either way for me. It could literally go either way. These teams are so closely matched. I just think it's gonna come down to bounces in this series, and I do believe the bounces are gonna eventually go San Diego's way, but I have San Diego getting it in Game 7. I think this one's going to go to the distance, and it's going to be a knockdown drag-out. How about you, Sibs?
Again, I think it's a 7-game series. I've been impressed more and more lately with San Diego, and you know how I feel about San Jose. And, I have a lot of respect for both goaltenders in this game. But I think still have to stay with the team I've been touting all year because I like all the talent on it, and we'll talk about them in a minute. I think San Jose wins this in 7, and this is the series that I really want to take a look at, and I'm going to be watching these just because they've been battling back and forth all year long. It's been fun watching them play each other, and I think this is going to be the best round 1 series in LG AHL this season.
Well, I don't know if it'll be the best series or not, in my opinion, but I agree with you as far as how close this is going to be. And I really think, you hear the term defense wins championships, and the goals, there's really nobody that has a stronger decor than they do. They have two of the very best. They have the best and another of the very best defensemen in the league in Stivvy 66 and Mixter V2 77. That pair is deadly. And I don't know if it was Vibes or Bear's story. I'd like to give either one of them credit. Whoever's story it was gets the credit for this one. But they were talking about this series and matchups and wondering whether or not the Gulls would split that defensive pairing up to kind of share the wealth as far as having their two best defensemen and spread that out and have one of their best defensemen in each of the games in 2 instead of using them both in the same game. But what I'm really seeing here is that in EA Sports Hockey, especially in these games that we play with LG and the type of talent there is, your defense can be outstanding, and you can have an amazing goaltender, but if that's all you have, which is not all the Gulls have, but it is their strong suit, it may not be enough. You have to be able to score, and the Gulls can score, but I think the Barracuda have a slightly stronger core of forwards, and that's really the matchup in this series, I think, is the Barracuda set of forwards against the San Diego Gulls defense. And how are the Gulls defense able to shut them down 4 different times in this series? Because as good as your defense is, with the kind of bounces that you get in this game and skating backwards at the blue line and your stick is literally sitting on the puck and you poke and it goes through the puck into the guy's feet and trips them when you're in perfect position to make the play, or you have your stick underneath the puck carrier's stick and you try and stick lift and somehow your stick goes through his stick and hits him in the face and you take a penalty. You put a team like the Barracuda on the power play and you could be in trouble, fairly quickly. So for me, I was looking at the lineups here, or the rosters, and the Gulls have an outstanding team, and I'm not really sure that I want to pick the Barracuda, but I really think, even though I picked it in 6 games, I really think that this series is a coin flip. I think that if we were on this show right now and I picked up a coin and I said, heads the Gulls win, tails the Barracuda win, that we could flip it and have just as good a chance of guessing this series right there is the same as regardless of if the coin lands on heads or tails. So it's kind of tough to defend either team here or put down the other team, but the Gulls having Taste as their GM. He's a solid player, and we talked to him in the management chat. He's a funny guy. And Mixter V277, of course, with Stivvy66. Everybody's favorite shoutbox hero with Rhino is Ransom613, the AGM over there. He's a solid player as well. Guthier26, I think Sibs has talked about him numerous times this year. Mac Truck, Gergs28, it was on Mike's forwards power rankings for like the first 7 weeks of the season, I think. They've got an incredible team. I don't know. I'm thinking the Barracuda in 7, but like I said, I can't really give you a definitive reason as to why. It's just flipping a coin, really. It's a feeling that I have. Mike, how about you?
Well, I think that's a good take. I think that's a great take on the differences between these two teams. I think you're right. San Diego has a great defensive core with Stivvy and the boys. Matt Truck's an amazing goalie. He shuts it down. But it seems to me like they have 3 forwards there, that are really, really solid. They have Ransom, who's an amazing player. Gergs28, love the name again, but Gergs28's a really good player as well. And then you got Danny K as well. Danny K, 2399, who's kind of a, under the radar type of right winger. He's got 82 points in 27 games. He's a plus 49. He's 23-3-1 on the season. He's just one of those guys who's just been right there all season, picking up points and victories along the way. They have 3 extremely solid forwards, and they do have some other good guys too. But they're kind of, some of the guys haven't played too many games with the team. They're sitting at about 500 with the records. Couple games over, a couple games below, but they have that solid core. And, if they share the wealth with those guys, and get those 3 guys playing with the other team members and bringing everybody along with them, like I said, I think they're going to be able to pull this series out. But like I said, it's going to take 7 games. I don't see anything less, to be completely honest with you. I do not see this going any less than 7, and I would be shocked if it does. And on the other hand, San Jose, they've got the offensive firepower. They've got Ducks fan. He is one of the better players in this league. And it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see how this series goes. But I think your take was right. It's going to be the San Diego defense and goalies versus the San Jose offensive attack, and it's shaping up to be a really good knockdown drag out 2 versus 3 here, and I can't wait to watch this one.
And it's actually 5 versus 6 in the conference too, so they finished right on top of each other in the conference.
I mean, right there all season. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Sibs, what are your thoughts here in depth on the 2 teams? I know you really love the goaltending for especially San Jose, but also the goals.
And just to note that the Golds took the regular season 4 games to 2, and a couple of games that they won were blowouts. So. But those were early on. Since then, the last 2 games were 1-goal games, where I believe they split them. So they've been playing each other well down the stretch. But some high-scoring games. I think there was a 5-4 game in there and a 4-3. So I don't think defense was that big of a part of those 2 games. But you're right in talking about the goaltending, though. And while I'm a big fan of Gauthier, and Matt Truck is also a solid goaltender, his record may not show it, but he's played well. I still like the combination of Perkins Pancake House and Matt Bielski, who have both played well this year. Matt has been a nice addition, and in these short series, if you can keep a position, when you change players, if you can keep a position at or close to the quality that you have with your first line or second line guy, I think that's where it helps. And when Perkins isn't playing, they've got Matt in there, and I think that can be the big difference for them. Matt Truck has to match what Bielski does. I get the feeling that's how it's probably going to work out, but it all depends on what the GMs do. But if Perkins winds up playing Gauthier a lot, then those games are going to be close. They're going to be tight up and down, and then it comes to the second goaltenders and how well they play in their games, and I think that's where San Jose has a nice advantage and where they could steal this series. I think San Diego winning it will not surprise anybody, but these two teams are going to play hard right to the end, and I think San Jose, if their goaltending does play as well as they played all season long, I think they take it just for that reason. You guys have mentioned all the defensemen and the offensemen on this one. Of course, one of our buddies on San Jose Lions, 67, has
Yep.
done well for them this year, and is a part of the team that they've taken advantage of. But they got a guy like TSibs late in the season, and he's played well for them in the last couple of weeks. So I think those could be some of the differences that might help San Jose go over the edge. But again, I think goaltending is where they have a nice advantage, even with Gauthier as their starter. I think San Jose's two goaltenders in a short series can win them this one.
Right. And um, I really think that if you know, San Diego, like Mike said, has three outstanding forwards. I don't know if you put all three on a line to steal a game. If you spread them out and take the chance of the chemistry not working between all three lines, I don't know who plays with who on a regular basis, but I have a feeling, a sneaking suspicion based on San Diego's defense, that if these are high-scoring games, San Jose comes out on top. I think they've got the firepower, and scoring 4, 5, 6, 7 goals in a game is basically negating San Diego's defense. So I think if they're high-scoring games, look for the Barracuda to take the series. If you can keep these games under 4 goals in the highest game, around keep it 2 and 3 goals a game. 3-2 games, 2-1, 2-0, 3-0, something like that. Then look for San Diego probably to pull it out. But if you see high scoring games in this series, I suspect it'll be the Barracuda on the winning end. Any final thoughts on this series, gentlemen, before we move on?
No, should be a very, very good series. I'm excited for that one.
I agree. Awesome. So now we're getting to a series that I have been dying to talk about, and my official pick that is Embarrass's story. Um, I think I'm about to change it on the air because there's something about these Lake Erie Monsters against the Chicago Wolves that I just really love. I picked the Lake Erie Monsters in our very first ever podcast as a team to watch out for coming into this season. At the time, they had Devil's Pride in charge. He had to take a leave of absence from the league for personal reasons, but Curlew is still there, and the Lake Erie Monsters have really, they started off a little slow in week one, and they have really put together a solid season ever since. This is not a time in the season that I would want to be playing the Lake Erie Monsters. In Barris's story, I picked the Wolves in 7 games, but I think on our show, I think I'm going to pick the Monsters in 7. I think this is another 7-game series for sure. Another coin flip, I guess, but I think the Lake Erie Monsters take this one in 7. Mike, how do you see this one playing out, man? I mean, it's a tough one again.
It's two extremely talented teams. Lake Erie gave us fits this year as well as the Chicago Wolves. And the Wolves, they play kind of a run and gun style. They stretch the puck a lot. They're really they
50
really look
yard
for
bomb.
long passes. They cheat a little bit, and which if you're not ready for it, they're gonna get behind you and they're gonna put them in the back of the net. There's no doubt about it. But
They're finishers.
Lake Erie plays total team hockey. They move the puck well. They play good defense. They're good they're a 200-foot hockey team. They play well in every area of the ice, and this is going to be your classic shootout team versus your classic all-around team. So I do have this one going 7 games, but I do have this one going to the Chicago Wolves in 7. I think they're going to find a way to get it done. How about you, Sibs?
Yeah, I first of all hope Vibes doesn't hear this because he'll be calling you directly, VHigh.
Yeah. Hey, he did it in his own story.
Yeah.
He picked the Monsters to beat the Wolves, so we're good.
Yeah, I still think Lake Erie is a scary team, and they have shown that they can play with anybody, they can beat anybody at any time, and they got a ton of talent over there. This is a tough one to pick though, but I still think Chicago takes it in 6. I think they've been working a lot this past week, and we know that, and they're getting things together. They are working on a plan, and they're taking the extra mile to do everything, dot all the I's, cross the T's, and be ready for the series. And I think because of that, I still think the Wolves, and they're going to have some hard games. I don't think any of them is going to be an easy one for them. I still think the Wolves will take it, and I think they'll take it in 6. And we'll talk more about the players in a minute, but I can't go against them because I just think that they've been so solid all year. You don't see really down games on them, and I think they may lose a couple just because Lake Erie is that good, but they're not a surprise to anybody anymore, and I think Chicago will be ready for them.
So here's a interesting nugget. So game 1 of the playoff series between this team will actually be game 7 of their season series. And so far, in game 1 of their season series, they played 6 times in the regular season. The Wolves won game 1 4-3. They won game 2 4-2. They lost game 3 4-1 to the Monsters. Then the Monsters won the next game, game 4 3-2. The Wolves won game 5 4-2, and the Monsters won game 6 7-4. So we're heading into a game 7 with a 3-3 series, and that's kind of exactly how I expect this series to play out. When you the 3-3 season series, not only was the season series tied, but it wasn't like 1-1 and they split. They played 6 games and they split them right down the middle. I think that's probably a solid tale for how this series is going to end up playing out for sure. When you look at the Lake Erie Monsters roster and you see a guy like the Killer 9879 who was, I believe he finished in the top 5 of defensive point scoring. I mean, he might even be top 3 for the entire season. He's a solid defenseman. Curlew took over GM. DJ Wuku 68 is the AGM over there. They've done an outstanding job after Devil's Pride had to be relieved from the league. I think he did that on his own for whatever reason, and they got this team up. Their Gator Fan 4321 is solid. I believe Abba Ziaba or Abba Zaba, whatever, however you pronounce that name, the center. He's played 33 games in his career in LG, and he's got 97 points. Solid player, and the last 5 games that he's played, he had 2 hat tricks and a 6 assist game. He scored, let's see, 3, 5, 12, 15. He scored 20 points in his last 5 games this season, so 4 points a game in his last 5 games of the regular season. He might be a guy that could be a turning point for this series for them. But then you go over to the Wolves, and they've got the league's leading assist man in JLM. They've got the guy that was on the receiving end of a lot of those 50-yard Peyton Manning type bombs in C. Fairman 7, a good friend of ours, that went over there and fit right in nicely and scored a ton of goals for the Wolves. They've got another great guy who's if I had to pick for this team an unsung hero, just looking at their roster, the SAS Man 12 is probably that guy for me. He doesn't get a lot of recognition. He plays on a line with JLM and Fairman usually, but the guy bounces around. He does some stuff. Um, Great for this team. He's solid defensively as well as a forward. But they've also got Scrumsy in net now, and Fu Mancheesy is like the second-rated defenseman in the league. So you're going to see a tough series here, and really when you look at these rosters, it's fairly even. Though I do agree, I think the Wolves might have a little bit more firepower, but I think the Monsters really match up well with the Wolves. Mike, what are you seeing here?
Well, when you look at the stat line on these two teams, it's right down the middle, basically. I mean, they're almost mirror images of one another. And what I see in looking at the stat line, the Wolves scored 348 goals this season. The Lake Erie Monsters scored 340. The Wolves gave up 250 goals this season. The Lake Erie Monsters gave up 293. Now, I think that could have, a big deciding factor in this series right there is the goals against. The Wolves not only play that long stretch, fast-paced, break out and go game, but they also play good defense. They play really good defense. But then if you go down the line with these teams, I mean, I'm talking these things are almost identical. Their home records, the Wolves, 32-8-1. The Lake Erie Monsters, 27-8-6. Away record for the Wolves, 25-16-0. Away record for the Lake Erie Monsters, 23-15-3. One goal games, 18-6-1 for the Wolves. One goal games for the Monsters, 17-4-9. These teams are right down the middle. Basically, the only thing that separates these two teams is those 9 overtime losses that the Lake Erie Monsters ended up taking. These teams are right down the middle. There's a reason they're the 2 versus the 3. This is going to be a very good series. I think that like you had mentioned, I think that the Chicago Wolves run and gun game is just going to be a little too much for Lake Erie to handle, and they're going to shut it down. It is going to take 7 games, but this is going to be an interesting one to watch, and it definitely could go either way. But like I said, I'm sticking with the Wolves in this one, and I think their offense is going to get it done, and their defense is going to shut it down.
I think on YouTube, Taste wants to say he picks the Monsters in 4. He was just saying that to mess with you vibes. Sibs, what are you seeing here? And I don't know. Were you the one that mentioned T.S. Maids, defenseman for the Wolves last week? I brought him up a little bit, but I thought you might have made a comment on him. I'm not sure.
No.
You may not have. But what's your thoughts here?
Well, okay. So earlier I said the best series might have been San Jose and San Diego. Still may be. I think this is the most intriguing series just because of Lake Erie. We talked about that before. And what they're going to be able to do. You mentioned everything that Moranaconda just mentioned. All the numbers click, and when you look at the goaltending, and of course I always like to look there. Said Noel and it's Polgs, who was Navzi, by the way. Both Said is 22-11-1, Polgs 21-10-1. So again, you've got 2 solid goaltenders who are playing in this game who are going to be a nightmare for the other team. But I still think even though it seems like Lake Erie has more even contribution along the terms of goals and assists from their team. I think the way JLM and Fairman have been playing, they've just been above and beyond, and I think you mentioned guys on defense for them like Fu Mancheesy, I think is a big bonus for them. If those guys, for whatever reason, get shut down and don't show up, then yeah, Lake Erie could steal this. But I kind of still think that Chicago is going to take this one in 6 games. Pogues. I think I've been watching him all year. He's an incredibly solid goaltender. So is said, but I just like Pogues a little bit more in this one to step it up and to do what he can to shut down the Monsters' steady, solid offense. Curlew 7. I've played a lot with him over in the last year or so. He is a really really good winger and has had a nice season with 73 points scored. So while
Made that
Lake
nice
Erie,
addition to Hockey Town too this season.
yeah,
Late in the season.
yeah. So he's an interesting player who will who plays hard every game. You see GG Joe, he's another guy who has been solid all year. So Lake Erie's got good contribution up and down, but I still think in the end the Wolves have played played a lot of great competition, and while both teams have had to endure that in their division, they've had some knockdown dragouts with Rockford, and they're a team that really gets up for it. And like we were talking earlier, they've been doing a lot of drills, a lot of extra work this week. I'm sure Lake Erie has as well, but we know that Chicago's really preparing this. They are not for this matchup. They are not taking it lightly, and I think they will find a way. They will have a hard time. There will be some close scored games. I think pretty much every one of them. If they're all one goal, I wouldn't be shocked at all. So this could certainly go the other way, but I'm gonna put a foot down here and say that Chicago we'll take it in 6.
Yeah, that's that's kind of how I felt with the series with the Barracuda and the Gulls there. I picked Barracuda in 6, but you wouldn't really be surprised to see it go either way. Berger is a solid defenseman for the Lake Erie Monsters as well. He's had a really good year. He's over a point a game for a defenseman, which, as we all know, is is quite the feat to be a 30-point defenseman in 26 games in LG, especially when some of the better teams cycle it around all of their guys, but a lot of the teams you'll see the 3 forwards cycle and the defenseman standing up there.
Picking their nose.
Right. Sometimes getting caught out of position because they move over to try and help the cycle, and the puck doesn't come to them, and then a cross crease gets poked right up the middle, and one of the forwards beats him to it for a breakaway. But this is definitely, I like your word, Sibs. Intriguing is probably the best word to describe this series. Very, very interesting, and any of the picks that I've made, I wouldn't be surprised one bit to be wrong. I don't technically like to pick games and stuff because you really never know what can happen, but I'm not going to be surprised with any of these that happen. So let's go ahead and move on here. I think in a little bit we might be picking up Mooner here shortly, hopefully. I believe he's on his way home from work right now.
No, I believe he is actually home. We should have him arriving here shortly, joining us, within our hangout.
So until then, let's get into it. We will talk here about the San Antonio Rampage versus the one of the hottest teams in the AHL to end the season, the Condors. Boy, did they make a run to finish off their season and comfortably make it into the playoffs. In this series, I am not really struggling for a pick here. My pick for this series is I'm picking the Rampage. I think that they could possibly be the team to win the whole thing. I've got the Rampage in 5 in this one. I do think the Hot Condors steal a game here, possibly when Mooner isn't in net, when they play their backup goalie, who isn't a slouch himself, but when they play the backup goalie, I don't know if they play with their first line or what, but this team leans on Mooner, and why wouldn't you? Because he's the best goalie in the league, or one of them. I think that the Rampage don't have too much trouble and take this one in 5. Mike, how many games is this going to take?
You know, it's tough. You know, I like, if you can see that. I've got it scribbled so many times. I'm back and forth, back and forth, back and forth on this one. You know, in every scenario, I have the Rampage picking up the series win. It's just I'm trying to figure out, you know, what may or may not happen. You know, the Condors were very, very hot coming into the playoffs. Now, is this week off going to affect that? Are they going to lose their fire that they had at the end of the season? Is that fire going to slowly be snuffed out by this week off? Only time will tell, and we will find that out come tomorrow. But, you know, like you said, you know, when you got somebody like Mooner on your team, when you got a goalie like that, it opens up so much for you offensively. It allows you to play a little bit loose, and I just don't see the Condors being able to hang with Mooner and his team. Mooner's put together a great team again. You know, he helped out a lot last season over there with you know. I have him in 5. I have the Rampage taking this one in 5. After 3 or 4 different scribbles, I got the Rampage taking it in 5. I just don't think that the Condors are going to be able to keep that streak going.
Definitely tough against a team like that, but you never know. Sibs, how many games is this going to take, and are you picking an upset with Mooner joining us?
I'm just gonna say this in a couple of words. Rampage, 6, Mooner, and Tyler Loki. That's all you need to know about this series.
So you should be saying 4.
What's going on, man? Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, guys.
We appreciate you rushing your ass home and getting home. And getting
I know,
work,
I'm
man.
exhausted. I didn't know if I was going to make it or not.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks.
What are your feelings, man? How are you feeling going into this series?
We're feeling good. We're just excited to get going and get the playoffs started and making our way to the Calder, hopefully. But we'll see. We'll take it a game at a time, and we'll go from there.
There you go.
Awesome. So you guys, you handled the Condors fairly well in the last couple of meetings you played this year. You beat them in, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, no, 5 straight games to end the season you beat them. But the first 2 games you played them, you lost both of them 3-1. What are your feelings playing? You know, you're coming into the playoffs playing against one of the hotter teams in the second half of the season.
Yeah, we're feeling good. We don't want to take any team lightly, but we just, like I said, we're taking a game at a time, and we'll go from there. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But we're not taking them lightly, like I said, and we'll just take it a game at a time.
Is there any kind of pressure on you after what happened last year in the playoffs? I know you were very disappointed in how that went, but I think you've got a much stronger team in front of you this season than you did last year.
Yeah, I believe we do. As for pressure, I don't think so. I just take every game, single game, one game at a time, do my best, and usually my best is good enough, as you guys see this year, but no pressure on me. I know the team in front of me has made it pretty easy for me this year. But, yeah, no extra pressure for me personally. But we'll see. I don't know. I'm always back there for the guys and do what I can do to help them win.
Awesome.
Now, I got a question for you, Mooner, just because I'm curious, man.
Here we go.
You know, your style, I mean, you anticipate the plays so damn well.
Yeah.
Like when you're playing in that, like, are you reading the plays, like, or are you just kind of are you really good at guessing? You know, because I see your movements are very minimal in net. You're always square to the puck. It's just, you know, I don't know. I guess my question is like, how the hell do you do it, man?
Sometimes I don't know, I must say, but I try for myself to be best positionally I can to stop the puck, because you never know with the EA and stuff. You could be square to the
Right.
shooter,
Mm-hmm.
and the puck could still go in. But I played goalie a little bit growing up, so I kind of
Okay.
anticipate the play as I see it. Um, but yeah, I don't know. For myself personally, I just like to stay positionally sound and not move all over the crease there to make the best save I can.
There you go. Yeah,
No,
But
that's
there's no. I don't want to give out too
yeah.
many
No, no, I got you.
pointers right now
no.
because But
Um,
yeah,
does anything bother you? Like we were talking to you in the GM chat before we played you in the final game of the season. Um, does anything bother you when you're in net? Like, for instance, we lost that game against you 1-0, and the goal that was scored against us was a shot from one of your guys from the corner,
yeah,
and our goalie was in perfect position, and it hit his shot and went in the net. I mean, as far as I was concerned, how you both were playing that game, we could have gone into 6 overtimes at 0-0.
yeah.
Does, that's out of your hands. How does that go for you?
Um, I don't know, to be honest. It was. I don't know. I was at the other end. I was like, I didn't even know how it went in. But
Does
I was thinking
that
to
happen
myself
to
in my
you?
head, that goalie must be pissed. But
Right.
has that happened to me? Sorry.
Yeah. Is that? Have you had any like that this year that really just you
Uh,
don't know how it happened?
yeah. I had one actually. One the other team dumped it into our zone, so I went and skated out to
Oh no.
pick up the puck, and it went right through my legs.
Uh,
And
that is.
that was in OT.
Oh no.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Well,
So
Sibs, did you have an OT goal like that or something?
Well, I think in Friday Night Podcast today, I had one of those where I just shot it from basically the goal line to my right, and somehow that went in.
Like, how
yeah.
does that happen? Like,
That
come
was
on.
ridiculous.
So now I just sit in the butterfly.
Right.
I just sit in the
There-
butterfly now.
Just push it off
Right.
to the side.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Hey,
the
I
only
want
thing you do that doesn't look realistic, I guess.
Yeah.
right, exactly. Hey, I want to talk to you a little bit about your other goaltender, Tyler,
Yeah.
coming over late in the season, and obviously he was stuck on a Stockton team that was having a hard time. You
Yeah.
were able to bring him over and talk to me about what he has meant to you and to the team.
He's been a lot. I played with him a bit last year. That's how I was familiar with him and tried to bring him over to our team because I know he was a reliable backup. I don't like to put the number one, number two, but I play as many games as I can. I'm not saying he's not as good as me or he can't steal a game because he can. He's unbelievable guy. Means a lot to have him. Like I said, great guy, great goaltender. Just it's great knowing if I can't play or if it's his turn, then you're gonna get the same style of play as me. So he's I don't know, he's meant a lot to the team this year, and I'm just happy to have him.
Yeah, it's a hell of a safety net to have there.
Yeah.
He's a great player.
There may
Yeah.
be um, there may be some solid goaltending tandems in the playoffs for sure, but I really don't think that there's a better two goalie tandem than you and Tyler Loki. I mean, there's some San Jose for the Americans, Jones for the Wolfpack, and guys like that really are outstanding goalies and have been playing well coming down the stretch. But I
Yeah.
think the both of you together might be the best 1-2 punch in the league right now.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know much about San Jose and Jones, honestly. I don't really keep track of other goaltenders. I just worry about myself and my team, even with scouting and all. I don't do a lot. My players are pretty active with that. I just play my game, and I know Tyler plays his game, but I don't really keep track of other goaltenders in that sense. But I've heard a lot about all of them, and especially Perkins. I'm gonna give him a shout out there, but yeah, I don't know too much about all the other goaltenders there. I know they have great teams in front of them, just like I do. So we'll see going down the stretch. Hopefully, we can pull some wins out here and see how far we can take it.
Now, what do you think about this Condors team coming in here? They've been on fire here lately, and they got some offensive firepower over there. And Carlson MVP and Oilers. They got some really good players coming in. Have you done any scouting on them? Do you guys have a plan in place?
Yeah, yes and no. To be honest, I really don't know much about them. Like I said, I worry about my own game, and I work on that. But my team does a lot of scouting, and they let everybody on the ice know what's going on. But as for the Condors, can't say that I'm too worried. It's going to be a close-knit series, but I know they got a couple good players over there. But honestly, I don't know too much about them. Like I said, I'm not too worried about that. I'm worried about my own game and my team's game, and we'll adapt to the style of play they play. But we can be one of the best teams in the league when we put our mind to it. And yeah, I'm not too worried about the other guys. I'm worried about my own players only. But I know they'll step up and get some W's down the stretch, and we'll see what happens. But as for their team, I'm not too worried. I don't know too much about them, so we'll just have to take it a game at a time.
There you go. Flying by the seat of your pants, huh?
Yeah.
Well, you guys were able to finish second in the Western Conference too, which is quite the feat because early on it was the Wolves and the Stars and the Ice Hogs, of course. But the Gulls and the Stars started off way up there, and you cruised right past them as the season turned down. Won a lot of close games.
Yeah.
You guys were 22-5-8 in 1-goal games this season.
Really,
That's incredible.
Yeah, I did not know that.
That's outstanding. Only 5 losses in 1-goal games as far as in regulation. That's incredible.
Yeah, that is good. I honestly didn't know that, so we'll see. There's a lot of good teams in the West, but I think we have the talent to do something special this year, and we'll just see what happens.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for coming on, man. I know we've tried to have you on a couple times this season, and your work schedule is kind of a pain, but you made it work, and we appreciate that a bunch.
No problem. Thanks, guys, and Rampage for the Calder.
Yeah, Mooner. You guys are my dark horse this season, buddy.
I just want to let Mooner know that when I grow up, I want to be just like him.
Oh, thanks. Hey, I must tell you, a lot of goalies in the LG want to, just to let you know.
Get after it, Mooner. Get her done, buddy.
Yeah, I will. We'll see.
Buddy.
Good luck, buddy.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me on. Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, have a good night.
Yeah, me too. Bye.
Well, there you have it. That was Mooner 2014. He's a very humble guy in between the pipes, and
very confident player. Very confident
He is.
And it shows in his play. I mean, he knows
what
he's doing.
Yep, and he had me laughing there a couple of times, and I really think that he's he started with a kind of a rough start to start the season, but he really picked it up, and at least the game that I saw him in that we played against him, and a lot, watching a bunch of different games that he's played in. If the Rampage can play just solid hockey in front of him, he is one of the few goalies in an EA Sports video game with hockey that can, as a goalie, make a difference in the game. Doesn't seem to get those bad bounces that a lot of guys get and stuff. I mean, he always seems to make the save. Like I said last week, I smashed into him on a face-off play, and he still reached out and stopped the puck from going in the net. We couldn't even get a waved-off goal. So, yeah.
That was a tight game. His team plays great defense around him too, which is going to be very key. Like when your back end is shutting it down the way his defenders do, and you got somebody like Mooner and net, that's tough to beat. This is a video game, and goals do go in, but when you're playing positionally solid defense, and your goalie's moving with your defenders, that's extremely tough to beat. They're going to be a damn tough cookie in these playoffs here, and like I said to Mooner, they're my dark horse. I I could see the Rampage really, really getting on it, getting hot here in the playoffs, and getting it done on the heels of their great defense and their great goaltending.
So,
Yeah, you've probably seen the same thing I'm seeing.
so
We may not have. We were going to try and have Vibes on to read
Yeah.
something that he just
so
wrote.
he
But,
doesn't. He's
yeah.
mad at me.
Yeah,
That's not why he's not coming on, but he is
No.
mad at me. He told me he doesn't rush home for traders.
yeah. Let me just read what he said to me. He said, "Let the whole world know how deeply hurt I am by VHigh and his treasonous ways." That pretty much says it.
Vibes, it's
Tower it rings. Judgment Day is upon us.
all he heard was, I guess he doesn't read Barris's story where I did pick the Wolves. All he heard was me pick, but he didn't hear me praise his team and say that.
I think he stopped listening at that point.
Yeah, probably, but you know what? That's all right. We we love Vibes anyway.
I still picked you, Vibes. I still got your back, buddy.
I picked you in 6. I actually made the best prediction of anybody here. So.
I think that, like I said, just to quickly go back to this last week, the first round of the playoffs can be the hardest, especially when you have a matchup like Lake Erie versus the Wolves, or the Barracuda and the Gulls, stuff like that, or even the Binghamton Senators in the Eastern Conference in their matchup. Who do they have again? Was that the Crunch? They're the Crunch, right?
Who? What?
At the Senators versus the Crunch?
Yep.
Yeah, series like the Binghamton Senators versus the Syracuse Crunch. These series are coin flips, and I do not I do not think that picking on here will affect the series unless Vibes really lets me get into his head.
Those 2v3 matchups, man, I'm telling you, those things are going to be amazing to watch.
Yeah,
those are going to be the best series, in this first round here. Now, like we said last show, once we get past this first round, it's really going to get interesting.
Get those up on the site for us too, because when we do our show Tuesday night, we plan on doing it live during the games. There's 2 games on Tuesday, games 3 and 4 of the series. And we plan on watching these games while we're on the air and kind of discussing them and talking about what we see and how they play out. And who knows, maybe even Vibes will be wrapping a series up in 4 on Tuesday night, and we can talk about that. But he wrote a poem that he was going to come on and read this. It's in the night before Christmas theme. I don't know if either of you want to take it.
I haven't had a chance to look it over yet. I've heard us talking about it and reading it aloud, but I haven't taken a look at it yet.
Excuses. The problem
Why
is
he coming on? What the hell? Why has he got to do that?
Well, he had something come. He was telling me before he heard me.
He might not be able to make it.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's got something else going on that took him away from home.
It is Saturday night, so I guess I can't fault him.
Yeah. So
yeah, I can read it if you want me to. I have no problem doing that. It's up to you.
Yeah, that's fine if you want. I mean, I read last week's. I can do it. I don't mind. I just didn't know if either of you wanted to do it.
Let's give her a read here, Sibsy.
All right.
We can all try it.
The Night Before Playoffs is the title. So it was the night before playoffs, and all through the bracket was a couple of favorites and several can't hack it's. Some silently wait, others talk, hope they back it. The goalies are ready, the puck, hope they can track it, while the shooters attempt put the puck right in back of the defense. Wait, am I missing something here?
No,
doesn't.
Keep going.
Yeah,
okay. Put the puck right in back of. The defense is geared up. In the hearts, they place fear of failure and pain, crowd silence, no cheering, and scoreboards that say a lot to their 0. The whistle is waiting. The ice is ready. I can't hardly wait for face-off. This puck's getting heavy. What in the world
I
goes
just
on in
think it's
his head?
hilarious. I don't know. It's funny though, man.
I
You
think
gotta
it's
love
great.
it. You gotta love it. We got it. We got ourselves a true personality there.
He took the time to try and come up with it, which only a couple of people are even taking the time to write stuff. So I find it entertaining, which is all this is supposed to be anyway. Um,
Yeah,
but
we're all here to have fun. I mean, what the
right,
hell, you know? Let her
the
hang out every now and again.
Vibes did give me permission to read it, but I wanted possibly definitely Sibs to read it because um, I'm not gonna bend over and kiss Vibes in the ass. It's
Uh,
we're on here doing a job, and if I picked against you in these series, or if any
prove
of
them
us
wrong.
did, prove us wrong.
There you go.
I'll gladly come in here and talk about a different team that I didn't pick winning. I love that stuff. Especially
Oh yeah.
if it's a team that the league expects to win, and the league expects to lose, beats them.
Let me tell you.
Um,
Let me tell you.
love talking about that shit.
I would love to be sitting in here on Saturday talking about how the Griffins shocked the world. You never know. You never know. But that's why we play the game. That's why these are 7-game series. So I'd love to be in here talking about the Griffins on Saturday, but not saying it's going to happen. But
Vibes has a solid excuse why he couldn't be here. Can't read it on air, but
Ooh,
solid
ouch.
excuse. Good luck, buddy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Got to move to
tomorrow,
Colorado.
yeah, right. Tomorrow night is the beginning of the playoffs, and all I would say to especially underdogs, but pretty much everybody, do not underestimate your opponent. Don't think that because you are better than them in the standings, that you're automatically going to win. Don't think that because you were picked on the air that team's going to win. There's a reason we play these games, and there are guys, especially in the playoffs, that come out of nowhere and become the heroes for teams. And I fully expect that one of these top teams might go down in the first round, and it's not going to be because they were necessarily bad, but maybe a team that was picked against so many times got fed up with it, and they put a solid game plan, matched their lines properly, and stole a series. And the Wolfpack kind of did that 4 times last year and won the cup. So this is going to be fun. Thank you guys for doing the 2 warm-up shows for the playoffs here. I can't wait to get into this on Tuesday while we're on during games, but this should be fun. We got 16 teams. We have 8 series to start. This is going to be interesting. That's for sure. There's a lot of interesting teams in the playoffs this year.
We are under 24 hours from the playoffs starting in Season 2 of the LG AHL on the PlayStation Network. And, here we go. This is what everybody played the entire season for. This is what the grind is all about, is getting into these playoffs and trying to work your way through these series. So from me to everybody out there, I wish you all nothing but the best of luck. To any teams, go out there and have fun. Don't take it too seriously. Go out there and have fun with it, and see what happens. We'll see which way the puck bounces for you.
Yep, and I just want to speak real quick, saying nothing, just so I could get my name up on the screen one last time before the podcast ended.
Nice job. I think he'll appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, I think we're good, guys. I think we've beat a dead horse enough. I'm sure everybody's got their own opinions. Let's get out of here, and less than 24 hours, we'll be watching games and seeing how these things kick off.
Good luck this weekend, everyone.
Yeah. Good luck, guys.